At 1 with the latest BBC News for Norfolk, I'm Graham Barnard. A civic service of remembrance will be held at Great Yarmouth Minster this evening ahead of the Queen's State funeral tomorrow. Members of the public are being encouraged to go along, as Andrew Turner reports.
Civic dignitaries will carry the borough's historic sword and mace into the church, with councillors following behind. The service will give thanks and pay tribute to the Queen. She'd visited the church on her royal visit to the town in 1985, attending a flower festival depicting royal history since 1066. Today's service will include a sermon by the Reverend Alan Winton, the Bishop of Thetford, with a reading by the Deputy Lord Lieutenant Jane Cater. The service is free and tickets are not required. However, people wanting to attend are advised to wear clothing in keeping with the period of national mourning.
The Bishop of Norwich has been reflecting on the Queen's relationship with charities and her armed forces. On a special service broadcast this morning on BBC Local Radio across England, the Right Reverend Graham Usher spoke about the importance of the Queen's faith and her involvement in church life at Sandringham.
Here in Norfolk, when she was in residence at Sandringham, often the farmhouse that she and Prince Philip really loved being at on the estate, on a Sunday she would be in church, praying with the congregation at St Mary Magdalene Church as a parishioner alongside people who she's known for decades. And those estate workers and people living in nearby villages have known the royal family over generations. She knew them and she knew a lot about them and their stories, and she used to delight in that.
With 2,000 people expected to be at tomorrow's funeral in London, including 500 world leaders and dignitaries, 10,000 police officers from across the UK will be on duty. Our Home Affairs correspondent, Daniel Sanford, says officials believe it could be the biggest operation they will ever have to oversee.
This is like a G20 summit times 5, and yet it's in this ancient church, which was built long before there were weapons or bombs or aircraft that could bring all the world leaders together. So it's a completely unique operation. But the police believe that with the techniques that they've used and with this huge national mobilisation, that they can keep people safe. It just is obviously an enormous and huge and complex operation.
People hoping to travel to London to file past Queen Elizabeth's coffin have been advised not to set off because the queue is expected to close later this afternoon. Thousands of people have waited for many hours, day and night, since the lying-in state began on Wednesday afternoon. The Olympic gold medalist Dame Kelly Holmes explains why she joined the queue.
In my head it was like, I have to join this queue, so I stopped all my plans for the weekend, got on the train this morning, met some friends to change my clothes, and here I am.
And a couple who actually live in Sandringham say queuing to see the Queen's coffin was worth their 6.5-hour wait. Howard Russell and his wife visited Westminster Hall on Thursday.
It was a very brief but special moment, and it sounds ridiculous, but it was literally a couple of seconds, but the 6.5 hours was worth it building up to it. It was very special.
That's the news. Now with your weather, here's Kate Kinsella.
Good afternoon. The bright and sunny spells giving way to more cloud through the afternoon. Some scattered showers around as well, which could potentially be quite sharp. Another breezy day, taking temperatures down, especially along the North Norfolk coast. Cool there at around 13 Celsius, inland at 16. Now overnight, the showers will start to clear away. The odd patch of cloud, but some clearer spells too. It is going to be quite a chilly night. The minimum temperature between 5 and 8 Celsius. For Monday, early sunshine, but the cloud will gradually start to sweep in from the west through the afternoon, becoming largely grey. It should remain dry through Monday, but there is always a chance of an isolated shower. Temperatures tomorrow between 14 and 17 Celsius. The wind not quite so strong. The inshore waters forecast triple to point to Northfall, and strong winds are forecast. So winds northerly or northwesterly 4 to 6, occasionally 7. Visibility good. Weather showers at first and sea state slight or moderate, occasionally rough until later in the north. I'm Kate Kinsella with your BBC Radio Norfolk weather.
Many people all across England felt that in some way their area had its own special connection with the Queen. But here in Norfolk, that really was true. Uniquely among English counties, this was the only place where she had her own family home. My name's Paul Hayes and this is Norfolk's Queen, a special programme bringing you some of the personal memories of the Queen and tributes from here in the county, which was shared with us on BBC Radio Norfolk in the week following her death. The Queen's duties as monarch began here in Norfolk after her return from Kenya in February 1952. It was here she came, to Sandringham, where her father had died, to escort his coffin as it left the estate for the final time. It was taken to the royal station at Wolferton to begin its journey to London, with the roads lined with people in a similar manner to the scene 7 decades later as the Queen's own coffin left Balmoral. Here is how those events in West Norfolk 70 years ago were covered at the time by the BBC's television newsreel programme.
Today, a few seconds after 11 o'clock, the King's last journey from Sandringham began. Through the church gate of Sandringham House came men of the King's Troop Royal Horse Artillery. On a gun carriage they drew the royal coffin, draped with the royal standard. Lining the route were the people of Norfolk. King George VI was leaving his favourite home for the last time. Immediately behind the coffin, on foot, followed the Duke of Gloucester and the Duke of Edinburgh. Behind them, in the first car, came the Queen Mother, and Princess Margaret. Together they had attended a short service in Sandringham Church, just before the coffin left its resting place there. All along the 2-mile route to Wolferton Station, crowds 3 or 4 deep lined the path of the procession. Neighbours and strangers, they shared a common purpose, a last salute to their king.
Of course, Sandringham played a central role in the Queen's reign. Along with Balmoral, it was one of only 2 royal residences which was a private home rather than a state palace. It was where she and her family spent most of the Christmases of her life. Indeed, it was from Sandringham that she made her first televised Christmas speech in 1957. But there were also lesser-known aspects of her life on the estate, one of which was pigeon racing. In 1962, she appointed local man Len Rush as her pigeon manager. In 1984, he spoke to the BBC's Ray Gosling about his years in this perhaps unique job and his memories of the Queen's first visit to his home on Kent Road in King's Lynn.
It was Christmas time. Well, just after Christmas. Snow was on the ground, it was a hard winter. And she come out of the car and shook hands with us, followed us in. "Oh, Mr. Rush, what a lovely fire you've got. Because I always have a lovely old wood fire. Like we have," she said, "at Sandringham and Balmoral. Was at the palace, and in Windsor we can't have a cool old wood fire." And I was thinking, stop for an hour. Marvellous.
Did you come this year?
No. She wrote to me, and that was the first personal letter written to me by her. Other times, it's the lady in waiting or the secretaries was signed the letter, but this time she wrote her very own self, saying that she was at Sandringham, had a wonderful Christmas time, been very, very busy with her children and grandchildren. A very homely letter. It's marvellous to think the Queen of England should write to me.
In ink?
Why, yeah.
Not typed?
No. Her own handwriting.
Now, where are the ones that you've chosen going to race from?
A place called Sedgefield, which is the old Durham race point.
So they'll race 200 miles from County Durham down to Norfolk?
King's Lynn, yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
That's got a number on. Care of 17...
That's stamped, the Queen's name and address. That's a rule. You must have that. Everybody
It's
has.
actually got on the wing, written,
Queen. HM the Queen.
I can just see Queen.
Care of 17 Kent Road.
Care of 17 Kent Road, King's Lynn?
Yeah.
And the phone number?
Oh, yeah. Everybody's got them
on every wing?
On
some wings?
Yeah, mostly on the left wing.
1, 2...
3 feathers.
On three feathers?
Yeah.
I've never seen this.
Haven't you?
You've given it a kiss.
I often do that, mate. Yeah. I had the powers that be from Norwich, a doctor in the pigeon world, in the poultry world. They came down there and they took tests of about a dozen or 16. They're really going into this scientifically, this pigeon business, health-wise.
Do you go in for it scientifically?
No.
I thought you'd say that.
No.
Aye.
Now, there's what they call the genes and the genetics in the bloodlines. Well, now the Queen know all about that. She's a very, very clever lady, mate. I've told her she's forgot more than I'll ever know.
If Len Rush and his pigeons were one of the more obscure elements of the Queen's life at Sandringham, then surely one of the best known was her membership of the local Women's Institute. Indeed, for the past 20 years, she'd been the branch's president and was, nationally, the WI's longest-serving member. On the day after the Queen's death, Sandringham WI Chair Yvonne Brown spoke to us about the Queen's membership of the group.
She'd been a member of RWI for 79 years, 8 months and 8 days. She would have been a member for 80 years in January. And we're just so sorry that she won't be here to celebrate it with us. She really did enjoy coming to the January meetings. And the 2 hours that she was there, she was part of us. She was the Queen and we gave her all the due respect. But for that short time, she was a lady, just as us, enjoying what we had to offer, which was a speaker and the fun and the cups of tea and the cakes. And we all just had such a wonderful time when she was there. The ladies that sit at tea with her, that's their opportunity to have more of a personal chat with her. And she was always interested in people's families and what they were doing and what it was like being in the village. That was just her. She liked to chat like we all like to chat. I mean, she's got a genuine, or she had a genuine sparkle in her eye. I mean, I was so fortunate to have been at the reception at Sandringham on the 5th of February when the Queen came on the day before the anniversary of the accession to the throne. And even on that afternoon, yes, she looked frailer, but there was that sparkle in her eye, and she looked you straight in the eye when she talked to you, and and she said, "How have you been during all the COVID and everything?" She was genuinely interested in how we had coped with the pandemic.
As Yvonne mentioned there, the Queen would attend a meeting of the Sandringham WI every January at West Newton Village Hall, and there would always be a guest speaker.
We had Alexander Armstrong. He had us doing a game of Pointless, which she thought was highly amusing because it was one of her favourite programmes. And we just had such a lovely time. And she was always ready to laugh or clap her hands or whatever, And she also liked it when things went wrong occasionally, because we had a meeting at Sandringham House itself in 2002. That was the year the Queen Mother was still our president then, and she wasn't fit to come to the meeting, but we had it at Sandringham House. And the Queen always presents the competition winners with prizes of the Shield and the Rose Bell. And whilst the Queen was handing the competition shield to the winner, the back of my brain was thinking, "Oh, Yvonne, what have you done with the Rose Bell?" And it came to me that I'd left it behind the screen. So when it came, she sort of looked at me and I said, "I'm sorry, Mum, but the Rose Bell's behind the screen. Do you mind if I go and get it?" And she just sort of laughed and she said, "Oh, no, go ahead." It was just such a wonderful, natural moment, and she loved things like that.
Alexander Armstrong ended up being the final guest speaker at one of the Sandringham WI events attended by the Queen in 2019. She missed the 2020 meeting with a cold, and then, of course, came COVID. After he'd appeared at the event, Armstrong spoke outside the hall to our West Norfolk producer, Jill Bennett.
We had a live Pointless. I brought a trophy along with me, so that was very exciting. We had there is now a Pointless trophy that the WI can add to their the trophy cupboard.
And how did they get on? I mean,
they were brilliant. They were absolutely superb. Her Majesty's team won by a mile. I mean, they were extraordinary. They were so good. They got some of the numbers. One of the numbers they got absolutely spot on. We played a kind of higher lower version of the game where I would give them the category and I would say what the answer was. How many people do you think got this answer. And they had to guess a number, and the other side had to go higher or lower. And anyway, they got one of the numbers spot on. They got another one, they were just 2 out. They were very good. Suspiciously good, in fact.
It wasn't a fix?
No, absolutely, by no means. My goodness, no, that was one fair and square. And indeed, hands down. So there we are.
Given its status as the Queen's home, it's no surprise that as soon as the news of her death broke, Sandringham became the focus of Norfolk's commemorations. On the first Saturday after the Queen's death, Jill described some of the tributes which had already been left.
There is still more people coming, more flowers being laid at the Norwich gates, a lot of messages. I was told that the messages from yesterday and the day before have been gathered up and are sent, dried out, because it's been so damp, and are sent down to Buckingham Palace so that the family can read them, so the messages don't just stay here. The royal family wants to see and read all the tributes and the messages that have been left. And I'm standing by one here, which it's a lovely message. It says, "Thank you for your long devoted service. You've been an inspirational model for so many. It was an honour to serve you in the Royal Air Force between 2005 and 2014. May you now rest in peace. God save the King." And then the family from Buxton have signed it. But a lovely, straightforward, an honour to serve you. And in the way the Queen was saying, it was an honour to serve the country. There are more messages here, forever in our thoughts. Others have put thank you cards with them. There's one here, "Thank you, ma'am, for all you've done for us, for our country, for humanity, for the world." From the pupils of Finchley County School, RIP. And schools have been coming up here. Yesterday I saw children from the Howard School in King's Lynn who'd brought a wreath up here with a message for the royal family. And going further round, some of these are bouquets that have been bought, but some people have gathered from their own gardens. You can see the ones, they're lovely. Roses, one here with dahlias, all sorts of really beautiful things. People have brought and gone and picked their own flowers to bring here and leave them at the Norwich gates. Yellow sunflowers, hydrangeas, carnations, chrysanthemums. Beautiful flowers everywhere, and the smell of them, because so many of them are fresh, of course, the smell is beautiful. There are lilies there coming out, all sorts of colours of roses, yellow and red, and another one where roses clearly taken from someone's own garden, with coreopsis next to them. And the colours, so many sunflowers too, the colours are beautiful all the way around, and against the dark black of the wrought ironwork, they look extraordinary, quite stunning.
In the days following the Queen's death, Jill spoke to many of those who'd come to Sandringham to pay their respects, from near and far and from across the generations.
Among the people who have come to lay a special wreath at the Norwich Gate are 6 children and 2 teachers from the Howard School in King's Lynn. So, let me have a word. Can you tell me, what did you think? Why did you want to come up?
Well, the Queen is very special to all of us in this world, and she's like a family of all of us.
The Queen's really special to us, and we all think she was the best. I wanted to come here to show my respect for the Queen because I love her so much, and I'm happy to be alive to see this happen.
So you feel special because you've lived in part of the reign of Queen Elizabeth?
Yes.
I wanted to come because the Queen was like family to the whole entire school. And we really will miss her. And we were really sad that she passed away last night.
Did you put a message on your wreath?
Yes, we did. It said Howard Junior School, from all Howard staff and teachers and students, we rest in peace.
Just tell me why you wanted to come up.
I wanted to come here because the Queen to us is like our missionary nan, and I just wanted to have a load of memories and keep her in my heart.
I wanted to come up to celebrate our Queen Majesty because she was special for every one of us as well as the whole world. And when I saw it on television, I felt really, really upset and I started to cry. And I'm excited to have a new king, but I'm not happy that the Queen has died.
People have come here from the villages round about, but I've found a family here, and you've come from the other side of the world. Just tell me about who you are and where you come from.
My name's Tony Armstrong. I'm from Moorebank in Sydney, and like I said, we arrived on Thursday and there was the Queen, and by the afternoon we had a king. And we were up in Norfolk. It was part of our plans to be here anyway, and we just thought we'd come and pay our respects to losing the Queen, and we thought this was the best place to do it, and it's quite amazing.
I was going to say, what do you make of this?
Look, it's amazing. We've obviously seen videos of previous royals who have passed away and died, and we've seen similar sort of things, but just the feeling of being here and seeing the flowers and being part of it, it's just something that will stay with us forever. Many years ago I was at a local church around here on a Sunday morning, and it was at the time when there was a bit of kerfuffle with Prince Edward leaving the Marines, and on one side of the road were all the press. No one else, just all the press. And then I was there with a mate of mine, and we were standing there, and this big burly woman come over with a badge on herself, but she looked like some special policeman, said, "You're not from the press, eh?" I went, "No." "Come with me," she said, and we thought, "Oh, what's going on?" She took us over the other side of the road and stood us next to the fence, and when the Queen went in, they all rushed in, like they were very fit and they rushed in. And then when the church was finished, they all walked past us, and so probably no more than a metre away, the entire royal family walked past us, and all the press are on one side, all clicking their cameras, all on the other side of the road, and here I was with my mate and all these big burly policemen on the other side of the fence, and with the royal family like no more than a metre away from us. So that was my touch of fame. So I was saying, joking with the kids, saying probably the best moment in the Queen's life was when she was a metre away from Tony Armstrong from Sydney. So.
What's really noticeable is that there are people of every age here, and here's a family, 3 generations altogether. Do tell me your name.
Irene.
So, Irene, you're the oldest.
I am the oldest, yes.
And?
Becky.
And so you're your mum?
Yes.
And this is?
Lucas.
And Lucas, how old are you, Lucas?
8.
8. So just tell me why you came, all 3 generations together.
Well, it was my granddaughter that wanted to come down, and she just said to me, "Will you come, do you want to come with me, Grandma?" Nana, I'm Nana. And I said, "Yes, I'll come," after a little bit of thought. Yeah.
Yes, it's about 3 hours from us down here, so...
We've travelled 3 hours, yeah.
Where have you come from?
Yorkshire. I'm from Wetherby, and
these
are from Harrogate. London was just that bit too far and too busy.
And what have you made of it, coming here?
It's beautiful. It was really important to me to do something to mark it, and I feel like the kids will probably remember this a little bit, so I think it's really... You will, though, in the future. I thought it was just really important to do something, and this seemed like the most practical for us, really, so, yeah.
And your best day, and your only day off work, isn't it?
I'm on nights tonight, so back up to work.
And did you bring flowers, or did you just want to be here?
We did. We walked down with some flowers earlier, then we've been back up for an ice cream and had to just wander back down before we go. Yeah.
So a real effort that you've made to come. Yeah. and has it fulfilled what you wanted?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Yeah, I'm glad we've done it.
Yeah, it was you that wanted to come, wasn't it? Yeah. Mostly. I thought I'll just come along for the ride.
And you'd never been to Sandringham before?
No. Never been to Norfolk. Never been to Norfolk. Been all over the world, but I've never been to Norfolk.
Now you can say you have.
Yeah.
And can I ask Lucas, what do you make of this, Lucas?
I think it's really good because the Queen has reigned over 70 years and it's just really important.
Did you expect to see all these flowers and all these people coming to leave tributes to her?
I mean, I expected quite a lot, but not this many.
Can I ask your name?
Mary.
You're Mary. And whereabouts are you from?
Cambridge. But I was born just a few miles along the coast.
So clearly it's been a real effort for you to come. I have to say you're using a wheelchair. Why did you feel moved to make that effort and come?
Because I can remember her dad dying, and my brother was with the police that came down here. And so, and I remember the Queen's coronation, so it was yesterday.
Is this your daughter?
My daughter, my granddaughter, and my great-granddaughter.
So, let me ask, daughter, do you tell me your name?
Sam.
So, Sam, what, all of you have made the effort here to come here. What do you make of it?
I'm really glad I came. I was, so upset when I heard the news and everything. And it just, I don't know, it's just nice to come here and see this and know so many other people care as well, It's been really lovely. We really sort of, as soon as we could make arrangements, we did to get everyone cranked up and in the car. So, yeah, and I'm really glad I came. I'm very moving.
Yeah. And can I ask you too? Do tell me who you are, please.
I'm Amber.
And you have one of the smallest people to come with your baby, 3 months old.
Yes, she is. So she was born on the Wednesday before the Jubilee celebrations. So we spent the whole of the weekend in Addenbrooke's, didn't we? But she was due the Monday after, and I hoped she might make an appearance the Jubilee weekend, and she very nearly did, almost.
So what does it mean to you to come today?
I think everybody just wants to show their respect and say thank you. I was walking along thinking it's just a shame that she didn't see it. It's almost the sort of thing you want to happen before she passed away, just so she, hopefully she did realise how much everybody cared. But it's so beautiful and people have come from so far and some of the tributes are so lovely. You just wish she'd have seen it before, really.
1 week on from the death of the Queen, the new Prince and Princess of Wales came to Sandringham to see for themselves some of the tributes which had been left, and once again Jill Bennett was there.
The growing crowd had been waiting for a while, finding a place to see the royal couple. They were rewarded with an hour-long visit by the Prince and Princess of Wales. Kate was dressed in black, a small crucifix at her neck. Prince William in a formal suit and black tie. They made their way steadily past the sea of flowers, stopping to look at the notes and messages left with them. And then they turned to greet the well-wishers, spending time to say how much they appreciated the condolences and the support they'd had.
So lovely.
You were saying you were very pleased that you came.
Oh, gosh, yes. Oh, yes, definitely worth it. Worth the trip. Definitely worth the trip. When I woke up this morning, I thought, oh dear, I've got work. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do? And then I messaged a friend and I said, can you cover? No, I can't. And then I got to work and I said to another colleague, Sam, and I messaged him and I said, Sam, I said, you know how much I love the royal family? I said, do you mind coming in early? Because he was working in the evening. And he said, I can get there for 11:30. I said, right, OK, that'll do fine. And then my manager, she's, we said she could manage, and so came up, and I'm glad that I did, because I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
And you actually shook her hand, didn't you?
Yes, I did shake her hand, and so sort of like had a few words with her, and talking about generations, and told her that I brought my granddaughter Poppy up because she wanted to come up, and little Poppy was devastated because she left her marmalade sandwich at home, what she wanted to bring. But yeah, it's just lovely. It's just lovely how we are, the British, that when it's things like this, we all do come together. Yeah. As I say, I've been up here 3 times, but it's worth it. It's worth it, yeah.
Are you pleased that you came, though, to be so close to
us? Yes. I mean, we were camping in Dersingham, and it just appeared on the news that they were going to be here, so we thought, well, we've been 3 times now. We came on Friday, and you could actually get to the gates, you could actually touch them, and then we came Tuesday. And the amount of flowers that have appeared since is amazing.
Are you impressed with the way they've taken the time to come around here?
Yeah, it's lovely how they get to know everyone and just they make you feel important for just a little while, and that's enough.
My name's Lorraine Oatley, and I'm from Hertfordshire, and I'm
Christine Crisp, and I come from Heacham.
Did you have a word? Yes, we did. I said, I hope your grandmother knew how much she was loved and adored, and he said, I hope so, and I think she'd be overwhelmed by all of this that's going on around the world. So he was very, very kind. He chatted to you about when the king died, and you watched the coronation as well.
I remember seeing the coronation. I don't remember the king at all, but I remember the coronation. It's funny, certain things stay in your mind, don't they?
Yeah. What did you think of the time they've taken to be with the crowd here today?
Oh, I think it's marvellous because they've got time to talk to people, they're not just whizzing by. So, no, I think it's very nice.
It's very nice. They seem to be spending time just talking to everyone. It's just really lovely. I thought it would just be a bit of a hurried visit, so it's a little wave. So the fact they're stopping to talk to everyone is amazing. Yeah, they're really relatable as well. I think they'll really do us proud for the future.
You're listening to Norfolk's Queen with me, Paul Hayes, a look back at some of the tributes to and memories of Her Majesty the Queen, which we've heard here on BBC Radio Norfolk over the past 10 days. The Queen may have lived in West Norfolk, but during her reign she made official visits all across the county. In August 1985, that included the first visit of a reigning monarch to Great Yarmouth since William III, nearly 300 years earlier. Kim Riley reported on the Queen's visit for BBC Look East.
The Queen had received her very first posy of the day. It was to be the first of hundreds. At the town hall, a musical welcome awaited her. A 250-strong choir with a specially composed welcome ode to Her Majesty. It was the first ever visit by a reigning queen to Yarmouth. Queen Elizabeth I was to have come, but turned back because of an outbreak of the plague in Norwich. And Queen Victoria never made it because she was in mourning. But as the crew of the replica Golden Hind looked down from their mastheads, today it was definitely third time lucky for the town. The security alert and bomb warnings of 5 weeks ago were forgotten as the Queen and Duke crossed to the South Quay overlooking the River Yare. They were briefed on the multi-million-pound plans for a new outer harbour for the town. Still on a nautical theme, they visited the flag-bedecked Norfolk Pillar, celebrating the sea victories of Norfolk's own Lord Nelson. Then, via the seafront Golden Mile, to the town centre, where thousands of local people and holidaymakers had turned out to greet them. Everyone was looking forward to the planned royal walkabout. Amongst the good-humoured crowds packing the marketplace, the Queen was soon inundated with posies. 2 policewomen, flower-bearers to Her Majesty. Outside the Fishermen's Hospital, the Queen met the coxswains and crews of the Great Yarmouth and Dalston and Caister lifeboats. Final stop on her 2-hour visit to Yarmouth, St Nicholas Parish Church. Inside, a floral history of England since 1066. More than 100 arrangements, including a celebration of the royal christenings. And 19 needlework tapestries, almost 1 million stitches in all, depicting the town. For their royal guest, a choral version of the national anthem.
You heard in that report the musical welcome the Queen was given at Great Yarmouth Town Hall in August 1985. When we were asking for your memories of the Queen in the days following her death, John Roper phoned us and told Sophie Little about the part he played in that particular greeting.
It was a very exciting and wonderful day for many of us in Great Yarmouth, and many of us were involved. And I was very thrilled to be asked to compose the music to a welcome ode, which we named, that Valerie Howkins had written. And I had a choir of 200 children from every secondary school were represented, and we sang to the Queen as she entered the town hall. So it was very memorable.
How special. What a special thing to remember and to have been involved with.
It was very exciting.
Can I ask you what the lead up to that was like? I mean, how do you, first of all, organise that many school children to sing something?
Well, I'd worked in Yarmouth for several years in a school. I was head of music at Galston Grammar School, and I did a lot of music in the town, including the Great Yarmouth Choral Society, of which I was conductor. And so I was used to organising things, really. And everybody just, took to it, and yes, we want to do it. So it was easy, and it was a pleasure.
What are you worried about before something like that happens? Are there things that you think can go wrong? Is there sort of an element of risk in any of it?
Yeah, well, I remember getting up extremely early. Since I've retired in the last few years, I don't get up until the crack of noon. But that day, we were all up way before 6. We actually live almost opposite the town hall, so we can see it from our house. And we were up and getting ready and meeting at the town hall, ready for when the Queen came with Prince Philip.
Wow. And how did it all go on the day?
Well, it was lovely. To say it all went well, thank goodness, and my wife and I were very honoured to be presented to the Queen, so we spoke to her. She was absolutely charming, and as I've been hearing the last few days, how wonderful she is speaking to people, of course, and she asked all the right questions. And my daughter also met her because she presented a lovely bouquet of flowers to the Queen that day, and sang in the choir as well, which was lovely.
Oh, wow. What a special family memory for you all. What are your other kind of memories of that day which stay with you most strongly?
Well, we had a great day in Great Yarmouth, and after we'd finished at the town hall, the Queen was walking down through the market to go to St Nick's Church, St Nicholas, which is now the Minster. And we all went down there and sang the national anthem in the church there also. So it was a very busy and exciting day.
20 years ago, the Queen visited Norwich during her Golden Jubilee celebrations. She came to officially open the Forum, and here's how BBC Look East's Andrew Sinclair reported on the event at the time.
Norwich hasn't seen anything like this for years. Thousands lined the streets as the Queen and Duke of Edinburgh were driven into the city marketplace. Everyone wanted to get a good view. Some had travelled from as far afield as Scotland to be here.
I want to do everything I can to support her during this year.
I think she's done a great job. I think she's done a wonderful job.
She was here to open the Forum, a £63 million state-of-the-art development, home to the city's Millennium Library, and soon to be the new location for our studios. First stop, the Children's Library, where a reading lesson was underway. There was the first of many presentations of flowers before the Queen was shown some of the library's other facilities. The Duke, meanwhile, was next door in the American Air Force Library. Then it was up to the first floor to send an email to every school in the county, or rather to ask someone else to send the email on her behalf.
Well, the Queen came upstairs and checked this message, which was a message she'd agreed she was going to send. She did approve it and asked a member of staff to press the key for her, and the message was sent to 454 schools in Norfolk, and to our knowledge that's the biggest group email that the Queen has sent so far.
I know what a very sad day it was for the people of Norwich and Norfolk, and for Norfolk's library service, when on the 1st of August 1994, the central library that used to stand on this site was destroyed by fire.
The Forum, the Queen said, was an ambitious and far-reaching project, widely acclaimed.
I can easily see why it is already a hive of activity. Prince Philip and I are delighted to be with you in Norfolk today, and it gives me the greatest pleasure to declare open the Forum and the Norfolk and Norwich Millennium Library.
The day had started on a sombre note as the Duke of Edinburgh met with members of the rescue services involved in Tuesday night's operation in the North Sea. He was in Great Yarmouth to open the town's museum dedicated to Horatio Nelson. The Queen, meanwhile, was also at a museum, the newly refurbished Castle Museum in Norwich, home to an exhibition dedicated to the local football team. But the abiding memory of this tour will be the scenes in central Norwich as the royal party left the Forum. Several thousand people, all eager to meet them.
Yeah, she looks very pretty in her yellow outfit. It went with the golden theme of the Golden Jubilee.
We just thought it was really good to be able to see the Queen.
Yeah. Because we probably won't ever see her again in our lives.
We heard there that in 2002 the Queen visited the Norwich City Centenary exhibition at the castle. One of the people she met there was the former Canaries goalkeeper Brian Gunn, who was then serving as the ceremonial Sheriff of Norwich. A few days after the death of the Queen, he shared his memories of that day with Sophie Little.
I was in all the regality that came with being Sheriff of Norwich. I had fantastic purple robes on, the sheriff's hat, and also these fantastic chains, gold chains that the sheriff wore with the outfit. And it was just the build-up. I mean, we could see her coming along the line, and then it was our turn, really. My wife Susan and I were standing there waiting patiently. I'd seen in the picture that I have was Kevin Platt, who was the club secretary at the football club at the time, and also Geoffrey Watling, one of the sort of the main fundraisers, chairman, president, whatever else Geoffrey was. He was in the line as well. And so it was just a case of I suppose waiting your turn. And I was very keen to show the Queen a picture of myself making a save, which was behind me on the wall. But she was more interested in my ropes and my chain. So we had a little chat about that, and we were invited to the garden party at Sandringham that evening. And she did say to me that I need to wear the chain so she could recognise me. But here was me, a 6'3" Scotsman with a goatee beard, and she wanted me to wear my chains at Sandringham so she could recognise me. So that was the little quip that she came out with.
And when you were Sheriff of Norwich, I imagine that you had a sense of the importance of that royal link to Norfolk.
Yes, it was. I suppose during my year, before that as well, I mean, we had visits from the Duchess of Kent when we opened the stadium, the City Stand. We knew that people came to Sandringham, that the royals came to Sandringham and spent time there as well. I also was lucky enough to get in, and Susan and I were lucky enough to get an invite to Buckingham Palace, and we never actually saw the Queen, met the Queen that day. Obviously enjoyed some cucumber sandwiches. But my other memory is having to go to the first aid tent to get some plasters. I quite stupidly wore some new shoes that day, and I had to go and get some plasters to help my heels get through the rest of the day. But just like all those little funny things as well. They all add up to sort of meeting that great lady, and being able to tell a story about it.
One of the Queen's most enduring links to Norfolk was through the military. She made many visits to the Royal Air Force Station at Marham, and that included a very special visit for the RAF's 75th anniversary celebrations in 1993, an event we covered live here on BBC Radio Norfolk.
Officers, airmen and airwomen of the Royal Air Force. A 75th anniversary is a notable event and is most certainly worthy of celebration. I am delighted to be here to mark this milestone in your history by presenting my new colour to the Royal Air Force in the United Kingdom. I know that there are present here representatives of many of the organisations which make up the Royal Air Force. Most of you will have seen in recent years dramatic changes in your day-to-day lives and in the role demanded of your service. In the 75 years since its formation, the Royal Air Force has time and time again demonstrated its ability to adapt and to respond quickly and effectively to changing circumstance. Through it all, though, the true hallmarks which have distinguished you and your predecessors, gallantry, determination, and devotion to duty, have remained constant in peace and at war.
That regular connection between the Queen and RAF Marham meant that her death was particularly felt in the community there, very strongly so at the local Cherry Tree Academy, a school which BBC Look East's Alex Dunlop visited 6 days after the Queen's death.
A special assembly today for the Queen, led, scripted and sung by the children of Cherry Tree Academy. The school is just a stone's throw from RAF Marham, where Her Majesty came 2 years ago to see the new Lightning fighter jets. In fact, she came every 2 years, which meant a lot of days out for the primary school pupils. Flags were waved and posies were given, one of them by this little 5-year-old. Now 8, Alex read out one of today's tributes.
Since the Queen has passed away, the memory of that day shine above all others. Rest in peace, Your Majesty.
Did you feel you knew her?
Kind of, yes.
Were you surprised that you were so upset?
Yes, I was very surprised. I cried. I was not expecting to cry because a few minutes later, a few minutes ago, I was like, that's so sad. Then I started crying for some reason.
In 2015, Albert gave the Queen a posy, one of his proudest days.
Obviously, we had the news that she had passed away, and it was quite upsetting. Obviously, the family as well. And then later that night, we went to Sandringham. And just the amount of flowers that are there already after 3 hours after her passing, it was incredible.
Messages on those flowers reflect real grief. People felt genuinely close to her, both adults and children.
I was quite upset, obviously, because I knew that family members were quite upset as well.
And how did you manage to deal with that?
Like my school, we had lots of assemblies about it. Obviously, talking to with friends and stuff.
The school immediately put in pastoral support for children who are confused or who are struggling to cope.
I'm Michaela Webb. I'm the CEO and Executive Principal of Cherry Tree Academy. Children as well, I've gone, I don't know why, but I cried. I'm sad. And I think getting the children to talk about why it is, getting the children to talk about, this actually reminds me of when my grandmother passed away, or something happened in my family, or just not being able to see somebody. Those emotions come right to the surface.
Through pictures and poetry and, crucially, talking, mourning the monarch can become a celebration of her life and legacy.
The military connection between the Queen and Norfolk continued after her death, with service personnel from the county taking part in the subsequent ceremonies. Among them was Army officer Captain Mark Quickfall from Watton. He led the detachment from the Blues and Royals Regiment, which took part in the procession of the Queen's coffin from Buckingham Palace to lie in state at Westminster Hall. And the following morning, he spoke to Anna Perrow about the experience.
Basically, the lifeguards and the Blues and Royals formed up at Buckingham Palace, ready to begin this procession with the lifeguards at the front and the Blues and Royals at the rear. This is obviously a major parade, and the Household Cavalry are always involved in all ceremony aspects when it involves the monarchy and the sovereign. Everyone from troopers to the commanding officer feel very privileged and honoured to be involved in this parade, and it's a way of us to I don't know, pay our respects in our way and carry our duties to the best of our ability on parade.
Now, you met the Queen. What was that like?
Her Majesty the Queen and the now King both came to Hyde Park Barracks in 2017. And we was very lucky, myself and Colonel Gaisley both hosted the Queen for about an hour, and it just went so quickly, and she's just so knowledgeable. And her attention to detail was fantastic. Her knowledge of the regiment, and there wasn't any moments of silence. She just asking questions or searching for knowledge and asking how things were going. So it was just one of my highlights of my life, really.
Really, it really was that for you, like a highlight in your life.
Absolutely, yes.
Wow.
Without a doubt. When she was speaking to the younger soldiers, she's very personable and interested in how the younger soldiers were doing and asking about their experiences and feelings. So it was good to see that that she cared for all those involved in parades and the military.
How difficult is it to prepare for something like this?
I would say this is extremely busy. In my 24-year career, I would say that this is the busiest I've been in preparations for a ceremonial parade I'd almost go as far as say this is in line with being on operations in foreign countries. The amount of hours that we are putting in at the moment to ensure that we are hitting the standards required. So yeah, it's up there with actually being like on operational tours, I'd say.
After the Queen's coffin was taken to Westminster Hall, hundreds of thousands of people have been able to file past to pay their respects. Among them was Claire Louise Wiley from Norwich. She joined the queue at 6 o'clock on the evening of the coffin's arrival and finally filed past it at 2:55 the following morning.
It's quite almost overwhelming, and it was overwhelming for some people, particularly having stood outside in the relative darkness. There are floodlights, of course, but from the relative darkness, going up the steps into Westminster Hall and standing at the top and then initially looking down at the coffin in the middle of the hall, it's so bright, and the colours of the standard and also the Queen's crown, the people bearing vigil as well, all the military uniforms, they are so bright, so technicolor. I mean, it's a magnificent sight, but it's almost makes your eyes hurt because it's so bright, having been outside in the dark. But it is wonderful. And we descended the steps. My group was very lucky because we'd actually had to wait outside almost an extra hour whilst they performed manoeuvres with the gun carriage and the coffin in preparation for Monday. So the security staff and marshals actually came and spoke with us because we were right on the verge of entering, and then they said, I'm terribly sorry, the military personnel need to do these manoeuvres and practices now. It will be about an hour, and at that stage some people it was too much for them, and they actually left the queue because they were so weary. They'd been on their feet for 7 hours and they just said, I can't face it any longer, and they left, which was very sad. We tried to dissuade them otherwise, but they just couldn't do it. We got in there before there was hordes of the lines, the 4 lines that you see now on the live stream, whereas I was literally standing on my own, centre of the Queen's coffin, and I could look up and see the crown sparkling so magnificently, and I just had a moment and actually running through my head of all the things that I could have said or thought, I just said, thank you, Your Majesty, in my head. And then you proceed out into the darkness of the other side. So it's almost very surreal, and it is very close to see everybody and to be so close to the coffin after being very regulated and marshalled outside in the queue. It was a wonderful moment, something I'll never forget. I wanted to go to pay my respects. I think she's obviously been the one queen in my entire life. She's been magnificent for the country, for the Commonwealth, and I did want to say thank you. Obviously, she'd had a long life and been such an example to everybody, being a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother. I thought it was appropriate, and I'm glad that I was able to do it. I had the time and the wherewithal and the determination and endurance to do it, because it certainly was quite an adventure.
Howard Russell was another Norfolk person who joined the queue for the lying in state. Unusually, perhaps uniquely, he and his wife actually live at Sandringham but chose to travel to London to pay their respects. While he was in the queue to do so, Howard spoke to the BBC.
There aren't many houses in Sandringham. I live in one of them. Mine isn't the big house, obviously. But yeah, we just felt like we needed to be here today and pay our respects. It's a sombre but very positive atmosphere given the circumstances. I was a TA soldier for a while and in the Royal Artillery, and I now just work locally to Sandringham, so I live up there. At the moment, we've obviously got a memorial in itself at Sandringham. I was up there last night and the night before just to see the flowers that have been laid, and it's quite immense, the display of emotion that's on the ground up at Sandringham from people who probably haven't been able to make it down to London today, I imagine. Yeah, we've been lucky enough to live on the estate now for 5 years, and like I said, I work locally. Yeah, it's at this time it's a very emotional place to live, and there have been moments when it's caught the best of all of us at home. But even our children, we've got twin children who are 3. They're not down here today. We thought it might be a bit much for them, but they know what's happened, and they're big fans, or were big fans of Her Majesty the Queen. And they miss her, and when she was around, they always used to ask us to say hello to her when she was around on the estate. and now I think they very much feel the loss as well, even at their young age.
It still seems strange to think that after 70 years, we now once again have a king on the throne, King Charles III. Official proclamations of the new monarch were made across Norfolk on the Sunday after the Queen's death. One of them was made on the steps of County Hall, introduced by the Sovereign's official representative in Norfolk, the Lord Lieutenant Lady Philippa Dannett.
It is with a very heavy heart that I stand before you today, following the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. On behalf of the County of Norfolk, the Chairman has sent her deepest sympathy to the royal family, as indeed have I. We know that Her Majesty, along with other members of the royal family, had a deep affection for Norfolk, enjoying family life at Sandringham and the brief respite provided there from the responsibilities of the Crown. We are here on this momentous day to proclaim the new sovereign, who I know will continue to serve the country with the same absolute dedication and devotion to duty as did our beloved Queen. Speaking personally, it has been an enormous privilege and an honour to have served Her Majesty the Queen as Lord Lieutenant, a role I will continue to fulfil to the utmost of my ability for the new sovereign, His Majesty, King Charles III. I will now hand over to the High Sheriff of Norfolk to make the formal proclamation.
We come together this afternoon on the passing of our late sovereign, Queen Elizabeth II. Our sadness at this time is shared by people across our county, our country, and much of the world. We remember with great affection and gratitude the lifetime of service given by our country's longest reigning monarch. The monarchy is woven deeply within the fabric of our country, and for the last 1,200 years, the crown has passed in an unbroken line of succession from sovereign to sovereign. Today's ceremony marks the formal proclamation to the people of Norfolk of our new king's accession to the throne. God save the king.
God save the king. God save the king. Not just a proclamation, but a new anthem to get used to, or rather, an old one which nobody had sung for 70 years. Here in Norfolk, the first mass singing of it came at Carrow Road on the Wednesday night after the Queen's death. It was the first time that Norwich City had played since she died, and ahead of kick-off, after an immaculately observed silence, the anthem was played.
It's a long time since Carrow Road has sounded like that before a league game. Nothing quite so powerful as a football ground full of people, 26,000 people all falling silent, absolutely impeccably observed, followed by a rousing rendition of the national anthem. The flags, three of them on top of the city stand opposite us, all flying at half-mast. A little reminder that things have changed in this country since Norwich City last kicked a football.
This has been Norfolk's Queen, a special programme giving just a tiny sample of some of the county's memories of Her Majesty and the local reaction to her death. A BBC Radio Norfolk production, it was presented and produced by me, Paul Hayes. If you missed any of it, the programme will be available for the next 30 days on BBC Sounds.
With the BBC News at 2, I'm Anna Preston. People who've not set off to join the queue to see Queen Elizabeth lying in state have been warned not to. It's not been decided when the queue will shut, but government officials warn the current wait time to get into Westminster Hall is at least 13 hours. World leaders are arriving in London ahead of the Queen's funeral tomorrow, with around 500 heads of state and foreign dignitaries invited. The Prime Minister of Ireland, Michael Martin, has already arrived in the capital. He spoke to the BBC a short time ago about Queen Elizabeth's impact on the relationship between Ireland and the UK.
We believe that Queen Elizabeth, through her authentic actions, by that speech in Dublin Castle on that occasion, in many ways opened up a new chapter in the British-Irish relationship and closed an earlier chapter, and it will long live in the memory.
Prince Andrew has paid his first public tribute to his late mother. In a statement, the Duke of York said it had been an honour and privilege to serve her and described her devotion and personal service to the nation as unique and singular. A man's been charged with a public order offence for allegedly leaving the queue of mourners to approach the late Queen's coffin on Friday evening. The 28-year-old will appear at Westminster Magistrates Court tomorrow. In other news, police say they have a plan in place today to try to prevent a repeat of violent disorder in Leicester last night. Hundreds of people had to be separated and 2 arrests were made. There have been a series of disturbances in recent weeks, initially sparked by a cricket match between India and Pakistan at the end of last month. The independent MP for Leicester East, Claudia Webb, has said she was deeply concerned and shocked to see hate-filled violence on the streets of her constituency.
We are a community that has worked well together, and we continue to share, of course, the message of tolerance. But I'm also concerned by those who have been intent on provoking violence. Right. And the police lacked the knowledge that this incident was likely to take place.
Tests are to be carried out to establish the cause of death of dozens of people found in mass graves in eastern Ukraine. President Zelensky says he has more evidence of torture carried out by the Russian forces driven away from the region earlier this month. And heavy rains and winds of up to 146 miles per hour from Typhoon Nanmadol are battering the southwest of Japan. Millions of people have been told to take shelter, and almost 200,000 homes are without power. Extensive flooding and landslides are expected, while bullet train services, ferries and hundreds of flights have been cancelled. You're up to date. It's 3 minutes past 2.